Thank you for visiting Past the Wire TV, the YouTube channel of PastTheWire.com.
Tracking trips with Pick Six King John Stettin. It's one of the best tools in horse racing for any level of player. It's your second set of eyes, spotting troubled trips, betting angles, track trends, horses to watch and favorites to fade, 10 figs, ticket structure, and more. At Tracking Trips, you're a friend with benefits. Not a member? You must hate winning money. Join Tracking Trips now. Visit PastTheWire.com and we'll see you in the winner's circle. Remember, nobody does it better.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest and greatest episode of Unfiltered on Past the Wire TV. I'm here with my co-host, Jeff Metz, who has done a lot of shows on Past the Wire TV and is back to do this one and a lot more. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much. It's good to be back.
I see. Well, Jeff, for those of you that don't know Jeff, most of you do, he's a trainer. I didn't know that you rode some races way back in the day, but recently came across a couple of pictures of you actually riding racehorses. So that's a whole nother dimension of you that we'll get into at another time.
Sounds good.
But I never knew that you actually rode races. You're in the tack room there in the office where?
Yeah, so I'm at Santa Anita. I'm in my tack room office here at Santa Anita, and happy to do the show, and we're going to talk about private purchases today.
Yeah, and I picked the backdrop behind me, Country Grammar, one of the richest racehorses ever, if not the richest, won one of the richest races in the world. This one, the San Antonio. Obviously, I'm assuming he was a private purchase. Great success. There's been a lot of great, successful private purchases. I've got the same question about them that I have about some 2-year-olds in the sale. And maybe it's just, I don't know, the street guy, New Yorker guy in me, the skeptical guy, I don't know. But when somebody has something that good, do they want to sell it? And obviously there's been such success that maybe that's a ridiculous attitude to have. I mean, look at the horse behind me. I don't know what they paid, but I'm always leery of, especially when they put a horse, when it's an outfit that races as well, and they got one in the sales that they want to sell. I mean, there could be 101 legitimate reasons. I get skeptical. Private purchase, I get skeptical. Let's start off with your just take on the private purchase in general. Then I'm going to pick your brain a little bit on that.
So I think when we're talking about race horses that are private purchases, whether it be the male horses or females, it's always, I think the most difficult part of that is placing a value on a horse, because, that's really interpretation as to what the value of that horse is. That's what makes some of these horses of racing age sales. That's what makes them, that the public puts the value on that. And that's the case where, nowadays they're even having these digital sales where, the bidding's going to end at noon on Friday, and the last bid, if somebody bids, you got 2 more minutes. Once 2 minutes goes with no bidding, then it shuts down. But when you have a horse that's racing, let's say he's an allowance horse or a maiden winner, because a lot of maiden winners across the country, as soon as you get a maiden special weight winner, whether it's short or long, the phone starts ringing.
Right.
Primarily the big tracks, Gulfstream, Churchill, Santa Anita. Horse wins by 8-10 lengths first time out, you bet the phone's ringing. And those horses used to be 100,000. Now they're 200,000-300,000, maybe more. But again, who sets that price? I mean, really, it's who's willing to pay, you know, and it kind of goes to the highest bidder, because let's say I have a horse that wins and wins by 10 and every decent breeding. Now all of a sudden the phone's ringing and this guy says, hey, I'll offer you 60. This guy says 80. This guy's, you know, you just keep entertaining offers until you kind of go with the highest one. But also sometimes, as you remember in the case of Authentic, sometimes there's caveats in there where the breeding, or if he wins the Derby or this or that, there's stipulations that are in that private purchase. So sometimes you might buy the horse and then you get a bonus if he wins. But then again, you might get, if the horse doesn't perform, now that might affect his price. So that's what makes it so tough in private purchases. And then I'll get into later why I think you're skeptical. And I think I know where you're going with that.
Yeah, you know, it's just, I just have so many reservations about them, even knowing the successful ones. And again, Country Grammar is a great example, you know. I remember years ago when Godolphin was aggressively trying to win the Kentucky Derby in the worst way. They would buy all those big maiden breakers, you know, and overpay for them. I thought, you know, I mean, they would ridiculously overpay for them because they wanted to have the Derby winner, and any horse looked like he had that kind of potential that broke his maiden, they were all in on. One, I don't remember what they paid for him, but the horse's name was Come On Mom, I believe. You know, going back years, yeah. People probably look it up and quote me.
The one that comes to mind for me is War Emblem.
Okay, right. But War Emblem was a private purchase, won the Derby.
Exactly. I mean, that's what, and he was purchased by one of the sheiks because he needed a Derby horse, you know?
Right. You know what I mean? And like, so the success stories are out there. I mean, you know, Bob Baffert goes out, purchases War Emblem, wins the Kentucky Derby. I think he won the Preakness too and lost to Belmont. But so I mean, it works, but I'm skeptical. I still, you know, I have a hard time buying that something that good, even going from a low profile outfit to a high profile outfit. I just worry about it, unless it's a situation where, you know a backstory, somebody needs money, somebody's in trouble, somebody's getting out of the game, something like that. But just to say, you know what, we want to raise some money, we're going to sell this horse, and they don't even stay in on the horse. Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. That's a good point that you make, staying in on the horse, because if a guy's wanting to cash out at a high level, let's say 2 million, 1 million. And he said, but I'd like to stay in for 10%. So you only have to pay me 90% of that price. Right. So now he's staying in and he's showing you, hey, I like the horse. I want to stay in, but I do want to cash out, because just like a stock, it's at the highest level. Who knows? It might go higher, but then again, it could drop too, because these are living, breathing creatures. I mean, we just saw a beautiful stallion pass away at a young age. So anything can happen. You could wake up in the morning and, you know, the horse is dangling. Is something wrong, you know? So right. They are very precious commodity. You know, they're very precious animals that, you know, they're delicate. They really are. So
now when you're going to consider a private purchase, okay, like, and I'll give you a perfect example. I'm not going to name the horse because the horse is running, so they're scheduled to run into Pegasus, okay? And I don't know if the purchase price was ever disclosed publicly or anything like that, but I was approached to buy a horse that was pointing for the Pegasus, or get involved for a piece of that horse, and I turned it down for number of reasons. But if you're going to make a private purchase like that, well, I will share one of the main reasons. The main reason was, my thought is, if you're buying a horse to run into Pegasus, why is a guy selling them if he could run them into Pegasus? I mean, if it's an active outfit that's running, why do they want to sell them? So that was reservation number one. But getting past that, what I want to ask you is, let's say I was interested, okay, and said, yeah, I'll buy the whole thing. I don't even want to go in partners. I'll buy the whole horse. I'm interested. What rights or what conditions can I realistically put on that other outfit as far as vetting that horse? Do I send my vet there to take a look at him? Do I get his prior vet records? Is it customary and normal to just get a whole slew of information that I might want before I shell out a couple of $100,000 or $1 million or more, something like that?
So definitely in today's day and age, the way racing is right now, getting the last 30 or 60 days vet records, that's pretty common. They're even doing that with claimed horses in California. If you claim a horse, they'll give you the last 30 days or 60 days of the vet records of the previous connections, like the horse had joint injections or he had Adequan, vitamins, whatever it may be, and they'll let you know that. So as you're purchasing a horse, and the higher the number, the more you want to do. So oftentimes you'll send a vet in to jog and scope the horse, make sure the breathing is good, make sure it's jogging sound. Then you'll go to x-rays. And oftentimes you will reach out to somebody you know. If you don't know somebody, then you'll get a recommendation. And that's for a veterinarian, because oftentimes the vet that x-rays the horse is not the vet that works for that trainer. So you're getting an outside independent person, veterinarian that is, that come in, jog the horse, flex his legs, everything looks good, we scope it. Scope looks good, okay, now we go to x-rays. X-rays, now this happens very interesting. You go to x-ray a horse that just won a grade 2 race and he's for sale, right? And so all of a sudden he has OCD lesions in a certain area, but the horse is running. But now again, this could affect the price and it could ultimately kill the sale. But sometimes these things aren't found out because the horse isn't showing any signs of anything but x-rays. And one day we'll have to do a show about x-rays, because between the sales and everything else, there's a lot that goes on with x-rays, not in a bad way, but just in again, an interpretation way of, I could live with a little this, I can't live with that, it's too risky. But again, I think it goes back to the value. Are you buying this horse for $40,000 and you're just going to run in a small race in a regional track? Or are you going to run in a grade 1 against the best horses on the turf or the dirt, like the Pegasus turf or the Pegasus dirt race? So I think those are some things that have to come into the equation. But definitely it is your right to do that. And then another thing that comes into play is as soon as you complete that transaction, I think insurance is going to be involved, and you definitely want to insure that horse because you want to protect your investment.
Right. Now, a lot of racing, a lot of racetracks today have, voided claim rules where, horse comes back no good, the claim is voided, goes back to the original connections. Would I get laughed at if you're trying to sell me a horse privately, let's say for $500,000, okay? And I say, all right, Jeff, I had my independent vet look at the horse. Looks okay, everything looks good, vet records look good, everything looks good, but hey, giving you $500,000, I want 30 days. If something comes up that I don't like, if I find out something that's pre-existing that I do not know about now, I want my money back. Or would you just say no deal? That's something to develop while you had them, and then
yeah,
I get stuck with them. So
the thing with horses, I've never heard that I've never heard that, like, that's almost like I don't know, like a 30-day money back guarantee or something like that. And there isn't, I've never heard of that in racing. I'm not to say that it hasn't happened and somebody said, hey, I'll guarantee you this horse for 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. But I've never heard that situation. So I think it would not be on the table. Like I said, not to say that it's never happened, but I've never crossed it.
Right. No, I understand. And I think it would be, admittedly far-fetched, but I'm just so leery. It's that mindset of, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is.
And that's the thing is, horses, as we know, are animals, and they feel good, and sometimes they create their own problems, feeling too good, jumping, kicking the walls or something like that. But even if you get a car, sometimes you get a brand new car and you drive it down the road and things go wrong. So, and the fact that these aren't machines, they're animals. I mean, I just don't see that the guarantee would be very tough. But not to say it couldn't be approached, because anything can be put in that bill of sale or, prospective bill of sale. But a lot of times it's an agreed upon price. It's pending a veterinarian examination. And after that examination, if, like I said, if you find something in the x-rays, you might be able to say, you know what, it's not much, but it's just enough, could we discount the price a little bit? And I think that happens a lot. I think, there's some gray areas that the people are willing to say, I can't guarantee this horse is going to hold up sound, but I tell you what, I'll knock off 10% or 10,000 or whatever it may be.
Right. Do you think if you're looking to compete at a high level, okay, you're looking, you've got some money to invest, you want to be involved in the game, you want to play at a high level, do you think you have a better chance going after private purchases and going after horses that you kind of know a little bit about? You've got some form on them, you might have seen them run in graded stakes and you kind of know where they fit. You may, think you have a trainer or a move that could move him up. Maybe you think he's a turf horse, or maybe you think, they want to sprint or go stretch out, or, you've got an angle. Okay. Are you better off trying to compete at the highest level, investing money that way in private purchases where you have some information, or just taking a shot at the sales on something that, you have your selection process at the sales, obviously, as well, but it's not like known form. You follow me?
Yeah, definitely. I think
where you're better off heading.
I think the proven commodity is definitely it's just that, you're taking out the risk factors, because let's go what you're saying. Let's say the 2-year-old in training sales. So you're going to buy the best bred, the horse that's working the fastest, the beautiful mover out on the track. So you're going to pay for this horse good amount of money because he's got all the important qualities. But what happens is you still got to train that horse 3, 4, 5, 6 months before he runs, and a lot could happen in those 5 to 6 months. Same thing with a yearling. You might get the best bred yearling. You buy $1 million yearling, and what happens is now he's got 9 to 12 months to get to a race. And just in the day-to-day, between things in the stall, injuries on the track, there's a lot of variables that will that horse be $1 million runner when it comes time. So when you ask about, do you go with the proven commodity, that is the thing where you see people spending $500,000, $200,000 in the 2-year-old training sale. If they were able to buy a maiden winner first time out for $300,000 and roll the dice that this horse is going to go allowance, stakes, and on from there, they're paying similar money, but they get a lot more proven. Like you said, proven form, you could vet check the horse. And so there's a lot of advantages to the ready-made horse that you probably could run in about a month. Like these horses being offered to you that could run in the Pegasus. I mean, we're targeting a race that's less than 30 days away. So right. That's like instant action. And so when somebody's targeting, like you said, the Kentucky Derby or the Pegasus or the Breeders' Cup, the price goes up because those are prestigious races and they only come around, so many times a year. And right. And another thing that I think when you get into the skeptical part of the thing, sometimes there's a lot of hands out. I'll try to say this in the most diplomatic way, but there's a lot of commissions being floated around. And so, the seller's agent wants a commission, the buyer's agent wants a commission. And, this, just like everything, everybody is doing their work and they deserve to be paid. But sometimes I think it could be a little more than it needs to be. So, I think that's where people are like, hey, I'll sell this horse for you for 400,000, but hey, I want 100, I want 50, instead of, industry standard kind of a 5% commission, sometimes 10%, depending on the situation. But like if you're in the sales, let's say, because, a lot of people, they have really nice race mares. And you see this quite a bit. They run in the Breeders' Cup, and then the next thing they're in the sale, Night right. of the Stars or something like that. So they kind of have their plan that they like to go with the female horses. They know there's a residual at the end of the racing days, and they might even stop a year early. They could still run, but they're like, this mare's at the top of her career. Let's sell her, let's cash her out, and we'll put her in the sale. And they let the market predict what the price is for that horse.
And you want to know what I always find interesting, that as sharp as people are in this game, and there are some sharp people in this game, they tend to overpay for the wrong horses. I mean, you get these great race mares, okay, that are phenomenal. And most of the time, they're not great producers, and they just command the most money because of their, their record on the racetrack. And the same thing happens with, the babies. You said, you go to the sale and you want, the horse that worked the fastest or is the best bred. And usually those sales toppers don't wind up being the best racehorse out of that sale or that crop. And when it comes to private purchases, when you have these maiden breakers that go out and win by 6 or 8 lengths, and get a very high buyer figure, get a great number on the rags or a great number on Thoroughgraph, it drives the price up considerably. I think that you're better off, if you want to go that route, finding a hidden gem. Like if we were going to look to buy a private purchase, okay? Everybody saw that horse on opening day break their maiden, the gray curling horse for Bob Baffert that everybody was talking about. Name escapes me for the minute. Faustina or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Who knows what they'd pay for that horse? You know what I mean? Blank check, you'd have people wanting to give you to buy that horse, I would say if we were going to do that, we need to find a horse that maybe didn't run so well, that got in trouble, that got off bad, that we know comes from a barn that gives him a race or two or needs a race or two to get him in shape. Find a horse that's really not shown all of that, so you don't pay for that, star value. You know what I'm saying? That's money that can buy 3 or 4 more, horses, and it becomes a numbers game, is to overpaying for that, wow, this one looks like a star. How many of those maiden breakers, okay? And Bob's probably an exception because he's just got so many good horses. They do go on with it. So you probably can't buy that one. But so many of those maiden breaking horses that look like, wow, the next coming of who knows who, don't go on with it. You know what I mean? And get beat next time out against winners at a short price. You know what I mean? And, if you're to get overpaid, now you're sitting with,
I think what you mentioned about the horses getting in trouble and having kind of a tough trip, sometimes you'll see these horses claim for 50,000, 62,000, 80,000. And what happens is they're allowance stakes horses, but they drop down to kind of get their confidence up or something like that. And maybe gets a bad, or he got a bad trip in the stake. And now they want to get the horse's confidence up. And every once in a while, you see these 50 to 80,000 claimers running in the Breeders' Cup. And the interesting thing about the Breeders' Cup is there's so many races and the fields are so big, half of them you get long shot, unsuspecting winners, as opposed to your every weekend type stakes races with 6 or 8 horses where they're pretty chalky, but something about the Breeders' Cup, there's always some price horses in there. So,
well, when you get that kind of talent and in those kind of big fields, a lot can happen. So yeah, no, I tend to agree with that. It's just funny to me that despite all the success stories with those private purchases, I just have a hard time believing in that system. Maybe just for me, I wouldn't tell anybody it doesn't work, because we know it does work, and we know that you can wind up with I think
is an interesting story that my dad told me. He said, why am I buying like 5 $1 million horses? I'll just go buy this one that just won by 10 lengths. It's already proven, right? So, it's same thing. And the reason I think it's different, John, is because you and I come from it different. If we had millions and millions of dollars, we're like, well, why are we wasting 6 or 9 months developing these yearlings and 2-year-olds when we could just go out and buy any horse we want? Like you said, blank check. It doesn't matter the price. And I think that's these people that are coming in buying these horses. It's like, and then you see big quality owners, sometimes 4 of them going together. So it's like,
Right.
Or partnerships, like like you said, the one behind you. And so now you're talking big money that they don't have to mess with. Price really isn't an issue. So they have enough firepower in the checkbook to, you know what, hey, let's take a shot. If it doesn't work, we have one heck of a write-off.
Yeah, no, I guess that's part of it. And I remember when Country Grammar first moved from Chad Brown's barn to Bob Baffert's barn and won the big race in in the desert. Somebody made a comment that Chad Brown didn't know what he had, obviously, and I thought that was a really bad take. Because I don't think that was true. And I think the form reflected that. Okay, the horse hadn't developed yet. And, obviously we don't know what was going on in the development phase of that horse. But I thought that was a bad take, because what I saw was, as a lightly raced, inexperienced horse, Chad ran the horse in the Travers. Okay, he didn't perform well, but he ran him in the Travers. And I know that Chad would not have run him into Travers if he did not see that potential that ultimately the horse wound up fulfilling later on in their career. And a lot of times, as well as I do, horses don't develop at 3. Sometimes they develop at 4 or 5, and sometimes there's a setback along the way that causes them to develop later. Correct? I mean, there's a development progression in horses that differs from horse to horse and could also be affected by a lot of different things.
I agree with you. I think sometimes horses take a little longer to develop, not only physically, but also mentally, where the light bulb comes on and they figure it out, especially when you talk those route horses, because they have to mature and develop and be able to really get those, distance races. And the other thing is sometimes it's track surface. They change from East Coast to West Coast, or even to Dubai or Saudi Arabia, like you mentioned. Now you're talking night racing, kind of warm and humid, deeper tracks, less deep tracks. So I think there's a few variables, but definitely the maturity mentally and physically is a big thing.
Yeah, and that's again, one of the advantages of the private purchase is that you get to learn a lot more about that, and you're kind of getting a leg up on stuff behind the scenes with a horse that you don't get anywhere. I just have such a hard time getting past that. Nobody sells anything that good, and
the other thing is,
history's proven me wrong, but I still can't get past it.
The other thing that I think would just touch on is, if horses come from, let's say, a trainer in Florida, they're a known seller, then I think that's a case where, hey, we sold 2 or 3 last year. They went on and did well. We did it again this year. We've done it for 2 or 3 years. So I think when there's a little bit better pattern, as opposed to, man, this person never sells, and now all of a sudden they're selling this horse. I think that anytime, as a handicapper, when the pattern is not there, that's when you scratch your head and say, why are they selling this horse? But again, there could be underlying reasons, like you said, finances, taxes, health scare, any number of things.
Yeah, and part of it for me, I guess, is maybe I'm a little bit old school, and well, maybe more than a little bit, but when I grew up around New York racing, there were a lot of these staple farms, that ran homebreds. The maiden special weight races at Saratoga were all homebreds. Okay, that they weren't for sale. There were no partnerships back then. Those people bred to race and compete. They didn't want partners. They wanted to beat each other. And I remember for years, and he probably still has it, although I haven't been on the Belmont backside in a long time. But when you first drive into the Belmont backstretch, the Phipps barn was the first barn. Shug's barn back then, it was Angel Penna. Angel Penna, the Phipps barn was the first one you drove and saw. And I remember somebody saying to me once, see that? Those are the best horses money can't buy. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, ain't no amount of money can buy any one of those horses. They just ain't for sale, man. They breed those horses and they're the best bred, and you can't touch them, where today everybody's partners, you know what I mean? And everybody, sells a piece and, spreads the wealth, and you can have, a bunch of people in the same race with interest in different horses, and it's just the way the game is played today to minimize, the risk and exposure. And it's so different than how I grew up in that mentality where, we breed to race and we breed to beat each other. So maybe that plays into my outlook on that,
Yeah, I was young, but I remember what you're talking about. And, these homebreds that they bred to race, and then they actually kept a lot of the mares and then bred those and continued the cycle. So no, you would start to recognize, big breeders and the quality that they brought to the track. And yeah, you would very rarely see them in claiming races.
Yeah, no, and right, exactly. They would retire them and either breed them or whatever. But I mean, you couldn't back then go to Calumet Farm and say, I want to buy a piece of Alley Dar. I don't care how big a check you had. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they'd be like,
and that's a good point. You said what money can't buy.
Right, exactly. The best horses that money couldn't buy. They wouldn't even talk to you. You know what I mean?
No need to call them. They're not selling.
Right, exactly. I mean, where today, I don't care what barn it is. You bring a big enough check, you're going to get in the door. Well, maybe not the Phipps, they don't sell, but even still, now they have some partners with Claiborne and a couple of other deals, and Stuart Janney and stuff like that. So but back then it was very, 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 very rare, and today it's become commonplace.
Yeah, definitely. So no, that's great. I think that's a pretty good look at the private purchases. I mean, we covered the vet angles, we covered why people might be selling, and some of the good points and the skeptical points of private purchases.
Yeah, and I think it's something we're going to continue to see. I don't think it's going to go away, and I don't. And again, I'm not discouraging people from it. And I can't say that under the right circumstances, I wouldn't do it, but just it would really have to make a lot of sense to me, because I just have that built-in reservation about anything that's that good for sale. You know what I mean? I don't know. If I had a horse I thought was going to win the Kentucky Derby, that realistically had a chance to win the Kentucky Derby, I'm not selling them. You know what I mean? Well, I shouldn't say that. If the price is right, I'd probably sell a piece of them, but you rest assured I'd stay in, I'd stay in for sure. And a lot of people, correct me if I'm wrong, and we can close on this. Some people that bring a lot of money to the table don't want you to stay in, right? They like, listen, I want to buy the horse. I want to give him to, I want to give him to, and we're sorry, but we're going to give you X amount of dollars, but you're out. Is that?
Definitely. And I think that's where controlling interest comes in, that over 50%, 51% or 60%, whatever it may be. But, so you got to be careful, because, and that could be part of the sales, the bill of sales saying, this price, but it's going to go to this trainer, it's going to run in this race. And, they're buying that horse contingent to what they want to do. But if you had that Kentucky Derby contender and you said, hey, I'll sell a piece of them, but I want to keep them with my trainer and I want to run in the Kentucky Derby, I don't think you're going to have too many people that are going to want to do something different. Especially if the horse is a legitimate contender, then that usually means the trainer that had him has prepped him well, he's doing good, or those people wouldn't be calling to try and buy him. So I definitely think that that there could be some situations where, the people want to buy them and they want to run them on the West Coast or the East Coast, and they want them to be with their trainer. You can stay in and enjoy the ride, but continue to buying this horse. This is what I want the outcome to be.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Last thing I'll ask you, because you brought it up, the commissions that go back and forth on these private sales. Okay, people get rich off that, and hey, all the power to them. If it's legal and it's legit, all the power to them. And if you're picking out those kind of horses and you've got that eye and you're a good scout, you're definitely entitled to earn off that. is that regulated in any way? Is there any oversight to that, or is it pretty much whatever the buyer will pay, whatever the market will bear?
To my knowledge, there's no regulation on that. So whatever the market will bear and whatever the owner buying the horse is willing to, if his base price is $1 million and that includes all commissions, then he knows he's paying $1 million. If it's a million plus 5% commission to agent number one, then that's what it is. And oftentimes there's a commission on the selling end and a commission on the buying end. So in California, we have bills of sales, and on the bill of sale, it'll say commission and the amount. That's could be filled out or it could not be filled out. It just depends. But on these private sales, like we're talking about, that don't necessarily go through a racing board, then they could put whatever they want on there. They could say, we're going to sell this horse for $1 million, but it's also going to be a 10% commission. So it's going to be $1.1 million and pending a vet check and, ABC after that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody who might not, want to put all their cards on the table could say, hey, listen, you sell this horse for me for 500,000, I'll give you 50,000. And that's just a handshake agreement between him and the agent. Nobody knows about it, and he sells the horse and gives him the money. Correct? I mean, that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it even happens on the lower end where, let's say this $5,000 or $10,000 horse is like, hey, we're going to sell him for 15. You'll get your 10 and I get 5. I mean, that's almost as much as selling $100,000 horse with a 5% commission. So, I mean, that's, yes, there's work to be done. There's phone calls, they're setting up the vet checks. So people are definitely entitled to be paid, that there's a job and a service there with bloodstock agents. But yeah, it's not regulated to my knowledge. So they're kind of at, it's like a sports agent. They can call the shots and the better ones can call bigger shots, so that's, it is part of the game. When people put their horses in the sales, they know going in, they're going to pay a commission. And I guess that's just part of it, but I don't believe it to be regulated.
Private purchases. Here's what I'll say to close. Know who you're doing business with. Do your homework. Let the buyer beware. Always be careful. Question everything. But you could wind up with a country grammar and win the Dubai World Cup or the Saudi Cup, which are
that definitely
races. So.
That definitely is the case. So just like you said, on my side, I will close with, do your due diligence, get as much information as you can from the trainer, the exercise riders, the grooms, if you can, some previous vet records. You already have race replays that you're watching. You could maybe have an agent or a friend go and inspect the horse aside from the veterinarian, so you get another set of eyes on the horse. Then you have the vet doing your examination, your flexion tests, your scoping, your x-rays, and even blood work. I think blood work is another good thing, that you could maybe draw some blood on the horse, not only to make sure he's healthy, but to make sure he's not on any analgesics or masking anything. So there's. Yeah, so I think there's a lot that, just do as much due diligence, like you said. And then at that point, if everything goes well and you're comfortable with the price, the commissions will fall where they may, because, at the end of the day, you're going to pay the price that's agreed. And then go ahead, take that horse, put him where you want him to be. If you want partners, fine. If you don't, that's okay too. And then have fun and enjoy, because once you get that part out of the way and you've done that, now comes the racing. And I hope you can get in the winner's circle at Santa Anita like Country Grammar did. And he's made millions and millions of dollars. So, like you said, that is a great success story. I'm happy for all those people involved, and it's a great story for racing. So
no, absolutely it is. So, and the last thing I'll say is, remember, if they do it with you, they'll do it to you. So always know who you're dealing with, and be careful. But the dream is great, and we all love it. And I thought that was the perfect backdrop, Country Grammar, because I don't know that there's a bigger successful private purchase than him that comes to. War Emblem was a good one that I overlooked. The Derby is the Derby. You know what I mean? Yeah. Thunder Gulch was another one that was purchased privately and won the Derby after the private purchase. So it happens. It's out there. So the dream is alive. Jeff, good luck at Santa Anita. How's the vibe out there? You guys had that great opening day.
Yeah.
Super hard. Dettori stole the show. We're doing a special year-long Frankie fanfare thing where we're kind of going to cover him across the globe. He stole the show opening day. What's the vibe like over there?
The vibe was fantastic, coming out of a couple years of slowness with the pandemic, but we had a record-breaking handle opening day, 41,000 in attendance, which was the largest in very, very long time.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it was wall-to-wall people. So it was a great vibe. It's the day after Christmas, so a lot of people are off or on vacation, but they came to the track. They got beautiful picture-perfect weather. They got great racing with 6 stakes races. They got to see some of the best horses in the country because people were here from out of town training a week or 10 days leading up to it. So kudos to those people for coming out, kind of missing Christmas, but they came and trained their horse leading up to those stakes races, coming in from out of town. And it was a great day of racing. And I think the people enjoyed it. So the vibe is good. It's going to be about a 6-month-long meet, but Santa Anita's, they probably couldn't be more happier than that opening day. So it was a great vibe, great handle, and a great attendance.
Yeah, no, and you guys got a real interesting jockey colony out there now, and hopefully the meet continues well. I know the card today looks pretty good. I haven't looked at the weekend yet, but you didn't see that horrible drop off that you see after those big cards. Sometimes the next card you've got a lot of really small fields. I see they have two stakes on the card, I think on Friday, which was really good. And
there's a little bit of call for weather, so they kind of had to dodge the rain. They actually didn't card any turf races for Sunday because of the rain coming in, so they pushed one of the stake races over to Monday because they're racing on Monday. The holiday.
You guys can't complain about the rain.
It's a little bit of rain, and they're getting super blizzards back east. They can't even leave their home in New York. So no complaints here from me. So
well. Great to talk to you. We'll be back with a lot more Unfiltered on Past the Wire TV. Jeff, thank you so much. Enjoy the races. Congratulations on a win and a birthday.
Thank you. Thank
Always
you very
good to
much.
see you in the winner's circle. And we're going to talk much more about your race riding.
All right. Sounds good.
In the future. Okay, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and ciao for now.
Bye-bye.
Dan Oman here with some exciting news. DRF Formulator, the gold standard in past performance information, is now free exclusively on DRF Bets. Join DRF Bets with the promo code WINNING. Get a $250 first deposit match bonus, a $10 free bet, and free Formulator already uploaded to your account. Access Formulator's premium features, including sortable trainer stats, race replays, personalized trip notes, and lots more. Free Formulator exclusively on DRF Bets.
History remembers moments of extraordinary strength, skill, and determination. True greatness is forged by those who fulfill their destiny.
Nobody does it better.